The Holy Gospel according to St. John. At that time, the festival of the dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in the temple, in the portico of Solomon. So the Jews gathered around him and said to him, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe because you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. I give them eternal life and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. What my Father has given me is greater than all else, and no one can snatch it out of the Father's hand. The Father and I are one." The Gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. Happy Mother's Day.
It's Mother's Day. So here's a step-by-step guide on how to make all those Proverbs 31 ladies feel great on their special day. Step 1. Locate some beautiful flowers. Moms love saving money, so try to find some free ones. Step 2. Get the flowers and the water as quick as you can. Can't have them dying on ya. Step 3. Find some more beautiful flowers, but this time let the scissors do all the work. Come on. Perfection. Step 4. Find a bow or something to jazz things up a bit. Remember, people, it's all about the details. Step 5. Enlist your baby sister to help you make a thoughtful Mother's Day card. I knew you couldn't be trusted. Step 6. If you have another sister waiting in the bullpen, grab her instead. Preferably one that appreciates the delicate art of watercoloring. You have a gift.
Thank you.
Hey, honey, I'm home. Hey, sweetie.
Amateur. It's the thought that counts, I guess.
Cute, right? Sweet. There are other videos out there, things moms say, and it's really a parody on what they don't say. Like, please use up all my battery on my phone. Please, by all means, spill the grape juice on the living room carpet. And it goes on and on. We thought we'd use that, but this was a little bit sweeter and kinder, and quite honestly, it reminded me of my little sister, Kelly, when she would go next door and pick the flowers from our neighbor's garden and bring them home to my mother. And they were in cahoots with each other, and it was really cute, really fun. I'm aware that Mother's Day isn't the best of days for all people. I'm aware. Hey, Chris, can you do me a favor? Can you come on up here real quickly? Yeah, come on up. Hurry up. I got to get back to the sermon. You guys, some of you have already figured out what's going to happen, right? Yeah. All right. I know that Mother's Day can be tough. And I know that for those of us in the room who are men, we're never going to be mothers, right? And I know that today that there are moms out here that are going to feel invisible. The phone calls didn't take place, maybe still today.
Chris showed this to me. Maybe you want to read it to the people.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to try and get you through to the point that what I really want to make is sometimes women don't feel visible. Sometimes moms don't feel visible. And Nicole Johnson wrote this little thing, and it's actually quite good. It's an article. It all began to make sense, she says. The blank stares, the lack of response, the way one of the kids will walk into the room when I'm on the phone and ask to be taken to the store. And inside I'm thinking, can't you see? I'm on the phone. Obviously not. No one can see if I'm on the phone or cooking or sweeping the floor or even standing on my head in the corner because no one can see me at all. I'm invisible. Some days I'm only a pair of hands, nothing more. Can you fix this? Can you tie this? Can you open this? Some days I'm not a pair of hands. I'm not even a human being. I'm a clock to ask, what time is it? I'm a satellite guide to answer, what number is the Disney Channel? I'm a car to order, right around 5:30, please. I was certain that these were the hands that once held books and the eyes that studied history and the mind that graduated. But now they had all disappeared into the peanut butter, never to be seen again. She's going, she's going, she's gone. I don't know if some of you feel like this, but I want to take a look into the Bible and talk a little bit about that truth of feeling invisible for all of us. It's a story that you'll find in the Old Testament, in Genesis. It's the story of Hagar, and you know this story, but I'll say it really quickly. Hagar is an immigrant from Egypt. She has no sense of belonging. She's running away from a household where her body has been used to produce offspring for an infertile couple. Surrogacy in the Bible? Like many daughters of Hagar, she's trapped in a system where she feels as though she is invisible. She has no rights. She has no dignity. She has no freedom. Most of all, she has no choice. It's very hard to be a nobody with no name. She's referred to by Abram and Sarai as the maid, the Egyptian. They probably don't see Hagar as a person. She's just there to serve a purpose. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even know that she ran away. Hagar doesn't know what she wants. She's a young girl. She knows what she doesn't want. She doesn't want to be treated as a non-person, as an invisible person without choice. She doesn't realize what her greatest need is until she meets the God who meets that need. And she names him in verse 13 of this 16th chapter of Genesis. She names him El Roi, the God who sees. Hagar, who might feel insignificant, isn't insignificant at all. She is a very significant person. How many of you know a lot about Hagar? Hagar has the longest conversation of any woman recorded in the Bible. The longest conversation of any recorded in the Bible. And more than that, the only one to give God a name. God gave God's self names throughout the Bible, but Hagar gave God a name. The God who sees. She needs so much more than my God is an awesome God, a majestic God. She needs so much more than the dribble and the baby teaching found in the church of the 21st century. She needs so much more. She needs an intimate, personal God. She needs a God that's willing to meet her where she is. I have now seen the God who sees me, says Hagar. I have now seen the God who sees me. But what difference does that really make? Being seen by God. What difference does it make? Do you know? God saw you before anyone else saw you. In the 16th verse of Psalm 139, before I formed you, I saw you. For Jeremiah, before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. You will tell them what they cannot see. You will lead them where they would never know how to go. The prophets of today want to tell you, want to share with you, want to give you direction. Will you have eyes to see? Will you train your eyes to see things differently? You don't really understand human nature, do you? Unless you know why a child on a merry-go-round will wave at his parents every time it goes around, and why the parents look for their child and wave back. Such a simple thing. Yet isn't that what we do? For those of us who are grandparents, isn't that the greatest moment of all? When your grandson shows up at your home and spends an hour or so talking about what they're doing, the drug busts, the cars that get pulled over. That's Stephen's life. He's a police officer, and he's my grandson. God saw Stephen before Stephen was even born. I'm so thankful Stephen was born. To be seen is to be understood. To be seen is to be encouraged. It makes all the difference in the world to be seen because you're significant. No one was bothered by the shift in the flow of the service today when I said, bring these medals forward. Everyone knew that I just needed quiet. Everyone knows that while no one will diagnose me with ADD, I can get easily distracted. And everyone knows that when love is on a mission, love will not be swayed. When love is on a mission, you don't back down. When love is purposeful, you never quit. Matthew 6. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and your Father who is unseen, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. What's the reward? God's presence and God's pleasure. It's an interesting story. Eric Liddell, how many of you have seen the movie Chariots of Fire? I saw it 19 times the year it came out, mostly because in each of those 19 times, I knew something was stirring. I knew that each of those 19 times seeing that movie, the runner that I was not yet fully formed and developed. I ran in high school, I ran in college, but I understood just what Liddell said. I believe God made me for a purpose. Now, not quite the same category, right? But he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel God's pleasure. And I did. And I do. God gives us, by seeing us, purpose and pleasure. And it's beautiful. I will turn your mourning into dancing. And I will see you when you are weeping. I will see you when you're at your darkest places. I see you, says God. And I promise I will turn your mourning into dancing. God delights in you. God delights in us. The Bible tells us so. God so loved the world that he sent his Son. And anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. All this eye language, all this optics, all of this is about seeing. Physical blindness is not the same thing as spiritual blindness. Have you seen God at work around you? Have you seen God crying, Where have you seen God crying? Have you turned your heart in the direction because your eyes are led by your heart? If your heart lusts for Victoria's Secret or the adult channels on your television set that has 9,029 channels, then your heart will move your eyes in that direction. If your heart lusts for and longs for righteousness and holiness and the beauty that God has for you, then your eyes will look for that. Train your heart. Change your mind. Move your eyes to see differently and see and be seen. God takes great delight in you. That's what it means to be seen by God. God takes great delight in you. How many of you whip out your phones and show me pictures of your children or your grandchildren? There aren't many days that go by that Becky Shirey doesn't say, "You've got to watch this." And one of the grandchildren at work on a little video that her daughter Rachel would send. And we'd laugh and we'd giggle because as the words are being formed, as the language is being formed, as the behavior is being formed, those stories are relevant. The story of Stephen on the front porch of our home in New Tripoli with ice cream smeared all over his face, one of my favorites. The picture of seeing Nadine at a little orchard that I had at that house. We had peach trees and apple trees and cherry trees, and very little fruit was eaten by us. We fed the deer beautifully. But the peach that she bit into, the very first peach, and it just, her face was a mess. Our dogs had cleaner faces than Nadine did. But I treasure that picture. And someday I will watch when she walks down the aisle and the preacher says, and she says, and they kiss, and I hope he plants one on her just as sloppy. Zephaniah 3, Old Testament beauty at work. God takes great delight in you. What it means to be seen by God. Well, the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. The boys and Jesus were walking past, and Jesus stopped and saw, but the boys kept going because the boys were hungry and the boys wanted to go get food. What a sad story it is. Here Jesus is trying to reveal the truth. And they just judged her because she was not only a Samaritan, the worst of the worst, right? Samaritan, we're talking about the yucky, alienated people, but they didn't want to see her. But Jesus saw. Jesus sees you. Jesus knew her, and Jesus knows you. Jesus only asks one thing. Jesus says, I see you, look at me. Jesus asks, I see you, look at me. How many of you have heard the words, Mommy, look at me. Mommy, look. Mommy, look. Well, do you want dinner or not? I could care less about dinner. Look. Let it burn. Let it burn. Just look. How many times have you heard me say, eyes on me? Maybe you hear that as a directive. Maybe you don't like being told he's really bossy. I'm just trying to say as lovingly as I can, eyes on me. I want your eyes meeting my eyes. I want my eyes to meet your eyes. That's loving, that's caring, but maybe looking into someone's eyes is too much for you. I don't know. There are eyes I desire looking into, and there are eyes I don't want to look into. The eyes of the dying. Those are eyes worth looking into. Andrea, in those last days, looking into her eyes. No longer the face, no longer the beauty, but even more beauty. Because that smile never changed. That smile, that pure smile. talking about Shannon's friend Andrea, who departed this life with the sign of faith. Because it was cold, and there's a typo in here, but because it's a canned slide, I couldn't do anything with it. It's one of those things you Google search and you look for, give me a conversation with Peter and Jesus. Because it was cold, the household servants and the guards had made a charcoal fire. They stood around it, warming themselves, and Peter stood with them, and they asked him, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" And he denied it, saying, "No, I'm not." And just then, the Bible says, a cock crowed, and Jesus' eyes, already being restrained, met Peter's eyes. Jesus was looking at Peter, but do you catch it? Peter saw Jesus looking at him because Peter was looking at Jesus, and Jesus was looking at Peter. It's not just that someone's looking at you. You have to look back. It's not just when someone's eyes are on you. You won't know their eyes are on you unless you look back. And that's where the eyes meet. That's where the eyes connect. That's where the eyes can figure out why the Four Seasons wrote this incredibly religious song. Probably for a different agenda, but boy, does it make sense. And I love the Four Seasons, and I love Frankie Valli. Can't take my eyes off of you. But I think I even like this one better. My eyes adored you. I like that. Because I imagine God adores even me. And I want my eyes on God. And I want the eyes of God. But Frankie Valli didn't teach me that. Amy Grant did. Of course. Right? My best theological teacher, Amy Grant. In her silly little song when she was 17 years old, "My Father's Eyes." All I want are my Father's eyes. Loving, adoring, patient, waiting. And I suspect those eyes are going to be needed as we move forward. My eyes are going to be needed to teach children about intimacy. My eyes are going to be needed to teach children because their parents don't. My eyes are going to be needed when the young girl comes to me and says, "I'm pregnant." My eyes are going to be needed when the parents come and say, "What do we do now?" My eyes are going to be needed to be a teacher in the church, to move us beyond black and white, perfunctorial statements to statements that will provide mercy. Isn't that what Jesus did here? How many husbands have you had? The church or government? Family values? Jesus was teaching family values right there. Can't take my eyes off of you, and God never will. His eyes are on the sparrow. They're also on you. You can never go where God is not. Stop running. Stop hiding. Rejoice. Find God's pleasure. Feel the pleasure of God. I wish politicians would quit screwing up my life, because I don't have much of an option. I personally don't have much of an option. I thought about giving you roses and daisies today. I thought about keeping it benign. I thought about some of your former pastors that served this congregation, in particular one who is very well known and very beloved, but said, "I can't tell them the truth because they won't like me." I've never asked you to like me. I've asked you to love God Happy Mother's Day.